Here we have the lollipop tree class as we left it last time. Now, what we need to do is we need to add properties and a constructor method so that the properties can get values, and each tree will know its unique screen location. So, in a class definition, the first thing at the top of the class is going to be our properties. So properties always start private, and then the data type or the class that the thing comes from, and then a name for this. Well, what we want for the tree, each tree needs to know where it is anchored on the screen in the graphics window. So like a home position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this data type called integer, which is a positive or negative whole number or zero. In other words, it's a number with no decimal part to it. Okay, and that can be used for specifying a screen position, either how far over or how far down it is from the upper left corner. So let's call this first property anchor X. Okay, so that'll be the anchor for where the tree is in the X direction, the horizontal direction. Okay, I also am going to then need a private integer anchor Y. Okay. All right, so that's my properties, and I can have other properties too. If I wanted to have trees maybe in the autumn where the leaves are changing color, I could have a different color for the leaves, but this is fine for now. Okay, now how would the anchor X, anchor Y get a starting value? Okay, well that would be similar to the flag. Remember when you made a new flag, you had to specify two numbers and two colors. Okay, and that was done through the constructor method that we wrote for the flag class. So for the lollipop tree class, we need a constructor which will accept two integers, and we will then store those integers in those properties. So the constructor for a class always starts with the keyword public, and then immediately after public it has to be the exact same name as the class name. So I want to say public lollipop tree, and if I don't capitalize it correctly, it will give me an error saying, hey, that's invalid. So I need to, okay, so public and then lollipop tree, same name as the class, and then here's the critical part. Inside the parentheses, I'm going to specify a comma separated list of what are called parameters. Each parameter is a data type and a space and then a name for the parameter. Okay, and so I always choose a different name for the parameter than the property so I don't get confused. And so I'm going to specify two numbers. The first is going to be the X coordinate, or how far over it is from the left edge. The second is going to be the Y, how far down from the top. Okay, the body of the constructor is simply going to be a series of assignment statements. I'm going to store the parameter in the property. And so the property always goes on the left. So something like that. So the assignment statement is actually taking the thing on the right-hand side and storing the value in the variable or property on the left-hand side. And so I want to set anchor X equal to the parameter X. And then anchor Y, anchor, boy oh boy, is Y. Okay, so here at the beginning of the semester, all of our constructors are simply going to be a series of assignment statements. If I have 5 properties, I would have 5 parameters inside parentheses and 5 assignment statements in my constructor. So this is the end of constructor. Okay. All right, so now that I have these properties and I can give them a starting value, it's time to modify the draw command so that each tree is not drawn exactly in the same place. Okay? Now, to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to specify one of the locations for one of these shapes as our anchor point. Okay, so let's say that the upper left corner of the rectangle in which this oval is going to be drawn is going to be my anchor point. So if my anchor point is 480, 80, that's 480 pixels over from the left and 80 down from the top. Okay, this 540, what we're going to do is all other drawing is going to be relative to that anchor point. So in other words, we're going to specify these other points not just as 540, but what is 540, right? That would be the same thing as 480 plus or minus something, right? So if 480, what change would I have to make to 480 to get to 540? Well, it would be 480 plus 60. Okay, do you see that? 480 plus 60 is 540. Okay, and then how this 100, what would that be relative to 80? Well, 100 is 80 plus 20, right? So I could say 80 plus 20. Oops, I don't need the, then I could have the space in there if I wanted to. Does that make sense? So I'm going to redo all the drawing commands where the locations are relative to an anchor point. Okay, then whichever one is my anchor point, I'm going to replace that with anchor X, and this is going to be anchor Y. And then this one will be anchor Y. This will be anchor X. So if anchor X was 480, then anchor X plus 60 is 540, and that tree will be in the place that it was in. Okay, this is a key step in Lab 3, is that you must specify all of the drawing commands in a class. In the draw method for a class, you must specify them relative to an anchor point. So anchor X plus or minus something, anchor Y plus or minus something. Okay? Now, so that's great. So now I have a complete class definition where I have properties and a constructor method, and my draw is using this relative to the properties. I'm drawing everything relative to the properties. Now if I go back to MU panel, however, okay, we have some problems up here. Oh, and something else. If you look over here on the right, like for example, if you're down in a different area, any of these red things are errors, so you can then scroll the scrolly bar up to see what's going on here. Well, what's the problem? Well, I'm trying to use the constructor to instantiate trees, but I now no longer am specifying the instantiation correctly, because my lollipop tree class is expecting 2 integers inside the parentheses, and I'm not giving it any integers. Okay, so if I would say 480, 80 for my first tree, and then I'm going to do this. I'm going to put 2 slashes in front of each one of these to make it a comment. Okay, so I can just run it now with 1 tree, and then down here I'll also do the 2 slashes, and then I'll uncomment them as I'm going along here. Okay, so now I can declare 4 tree objects. I'm only instantiating 1, and I'm giving it a starting value. Anchor X is starting at 480, and anchor Y is starting at 80. And then I'm going to draw the tree. And so now if I run the file, everything should be fine. And there's my tree back. It's in the position. It's 480 over and 80 down. Okay. But now the nice thing here is, watch this. If I go up here to the instantiation and I say 680, 180. Now my lollipop tree is in a different screen location. Do you see that? It's farther over and farther down. So using these properties, passing the values into the constructor and having properties and letting me draw things relative to those is going to allow me to have more than one object from the class in my program. Let's say tree 2 is located at 480, comma 80. And tree 3, or third tree, is at, I don't know, 500, 200. Okay, and then now that I have 2 more trees instantiated, I can get rid of those comments. Okay, and I run, and now I have a forest of trees. And I can move these around, and maybe I don't like this overlapping that one, so I can move it around a little bit. Okay. So that's how, sorry, scrolling around to make you seasick here. If I would put this one at, I don't know, 700, 30, and then draw, ask the 4th one to draw itself. Okay. I can have a forest of trees. Okay, I'll try that process again in the next video so we could have more than one sun in the sky. All right, so see you in the next video.